all video games need an easy mode. This sentiment is around the same time you started getting stuff like this. Accessibility in gaming, why it matters. And some of you pretty much already know what time it is by the look of this fucking banner. But we're gonna go ahead and read some of this. Because essentially what goes on is that during that entire stretch of time, you see a bunch of people using the disabled as a shield to make video games more accessible to able-bodied motherfuckers like this person, to foster the sentiments and cater to these people, motherfuckers without disabilities. They want a game to play itself. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, I don't even believe those people want to play the game. I think they just want to change some shit they're not a part of, because we've seen that before too. I don't even think they really want to play the fucking video game. I don't really believe them. I'm not in their household. Still don't believe them though. But anyway, let's read some of this by Fem Gaming. Did you know that approximately a quarter of the population in North America lives with some kind of a disability? Those disabilities range from mobility difficulties to hearing, vision, and cognitive issues, including chronic and mental illness. Accessibility for those with any kind of disability is an everyday challenge, and accessibility to gaming remains sparse. And many solutions have come from players themselves rather than developers and console manufacturers. Just as in real life, accessibility is an afterthought rather than an intentional design. But first, what does it mean for a video game to be accessible? The most obvious answers to someone who's able-bodied might be regarding more visible physical disabilities like fine motor skills requiring adaptive controllers, font type and size for the visually impaired, and customizable controller options, or deaf and hard of hearing communities needing subtitles and captions. While those concerns are legitimate, disability and accessibility encompass a much wider, less known range. For example, colorblind individuals need settings to help them distinguish game elements better, which we already knew about. And dyslexic players can benefit from easy-to-read fonts designed especially for them. Others with either physical or cognitive disabilities are asking for assist modes and options so another player can join and perform some actions that may be harder or impossible for the disabled player. The ability to skip portions of the game, like boss fights or sensitive material. Why would somebody who likes video games want to skip portions of the game, especially important shit, staple fucking mechanics of games like boss fights or other sensitive material, whatever the fuck this is, right? Because this could be anything, whatever. Like, this shit here is a giant red flag. Why would you want to skip portions of the game? And they bring up Cuphead and Sekiro, two games around that time that were being decried for not having easy mode and being too hard. These two games specifically. These two games right here brought journalists to their fucking knees saying that, oh, every game needs an easy mode. That's where it started. Journos couldn't beat Cuphead. Journo couldn't beat the fucking Cuphead tutorial. And that's where this shit started, right? But people are saying that whenever someone sees this and says it's woke, they're overreacting. Even though it's already happened. Like, the accessibility shit already happened. People just don't have a memory longer than fucking 60 seconds thanks to TikTok. So you can say that Doom the Dark Ages isn't out yet and that this isn't much to go off of. That's fine. But stop acting like people's concerns are unfounded when we've already seen this shit for Cuphead and Sekiro and every other Souls game to follow. Because remember, the fucking sentiment is all games need an easy mode. Not just Souls games, not just Cuphead, all of them. So when motherfuckers see this in a Doom game, you shouldn't be surprised that they might call it woke. They might have a point, because we don't know yet, but they might fucking have a point. They might. Do we really want to see this shit in every game? Who the fuck sees this and thinks about making the game harder? Nobody. Because of where it came from. All games need a fucking easy mode. Nobody was complaining that games were too easy and then accessibility sliders showed up. No, people complained that they weren't easy enough and this shit showed up. That's all I'm saying. But continuing on with this article, because there's one more I want to read to prove my fucking point. More options in the difficulty settings for extremely hard games like Cuphead and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is another accessibility demand that spilled quite a bit of ink. The problem is that some fans consider the difficulty level to be part of a game's design and intent, which is true, and thus it shouldn't be customizable to make the game more accessible. Obviously, it creates barriers that limit that game's accessibility, and more developers are starting to think about the consequences. As storytellers, they might want more people to be able to experience their games, not less. Obviously, for corporations, I get why more people would be better. Like, more people is more sales, but you can understand why people who actually like video games would be defensive at this position. It dilutes the integrity of gaming because everything mainstream turns to shit. That's why people are gatekeeping whenever they see shit like accessibility sliders. Like, whenever people say, oh, we need more people, it's never what kind of people. It's just more people, period. And we all know when you try to make something for everybody, you make it for fucking nobody. That's exactly why people are upset and at the very least skeptical about the accessibility sliders in Doom: The Dark Ages. Because think about it, we're coming off the back of Doom Eternal, which was one of the hardest Doom games ever. It was extremely difficult, even on normal. So like, you can see why people are apprehensive at the difficulty slider option, especially coming after that game. But anyway, as storytellers, they might want more people to be able to experience their games, not less. It's not all bad news. A bunch of organizations are working to keep studios accountable and further accessibility in the gaming space. For example, industry experts came together to create the Game Accessibility Guidelines, a grocery list of sorts that studios can use as part of their development process to ensure better accessibility. Players can turn to various resources like a blog named Can I Play That, which reviews video games on their accessibility and provides resources and news coverage of the industry as well. Does more effort need to be done to make video games accessible to all? Of course, but there are more than a few great initiatives taking place, and some truly accessible video games are being released every year. See, and when I see shit like this, immediately in my head I'm thinking, pick a fucking lane, right? Because you read the first tab and they're talking about the disabled, but then they say accessible to all. So fucking which is it? Are the accessibility options for the disabled, or are they for the disabled and a bunch of able-bodied motherfuckers who don't want to take the time to learn a video game? Because what they want is to just have games be easier, and it doesn't have shit to do with the disabled. They just want games to be easier for no reason, because these people don't even like video games. Because if they did, they will understand that challenge is literally an intrinsic core part of video games. That's the whole point. That's what makes something engaging. That's why easy games are fucking boring. And for the record, when people say easy mode is for babies, they're not being elitist. Like, that's a very literal statement. Like, easy mode was literally made for children. Like, that's what it was for. A child's not gonna be able to learn if they're just getting obliterated by high damage enemies. That's why there's a mode for them, to get their feet wet with the lowest difficulty setting. But anyway, according to Mark Brown, who dives in game design and production on his YouTube channel, Game Maker's Toolkit, 2021 saw some amazingly accessible blockbuster games being released, such as Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Far Cry 6, The Last of Us Part 2, and Forza Horizon 5, which this shit was stupid, dude. In Forza Horizon 5, you can slow the game down. Bro, this already fucking happened. This accessibility discussion already fucking happened. And everyone was calling this shit woke back then, specifically because of The Last of Us 2. Games like Forza Horizon 5 were being used as examples, because you could go in that bitch and slow the game down to like 0.0001 speed or some shit, to a point where it was in slow motion, but you moved at normal speed.
In 400 meters, turn right. Turn right. In 100 meters, turn right.
Who the fuck wants to play a racing game that could do that? Why is that in the game? Who is that for? Whatever. Oh, my bad. That thought just came to me because I remember seeing somebody demonstrate that shit. What was it for? He also mentions industry leaders such as Microsoft and Xbox, who have made great strides towards accessibility as well in the last year.